The fact is that developing well-crafted PLOs takes some reflection efforts. And in this section, we would like to ascertain that these efforts are really worth it. So we will see who are the main beneficiaries of PLOs. And of course, our main stakeholders are students. But do students need program learning outcomes? The answer to that question is an astounding yes. So let us ask ourselves how PLOs will benefit students. Well, because students need to know what competencies they will gain during their learning. Remember, a competency is obtained through a combined utilization of personal abilities and attributes, skills and knowledge to effectively perform an action. Students also need to know the expectations from them so they can budget their time and efforts accordingly. During their studies, students need to determine what they have mastered and what remains to be mastered. Finally, as completing any study program requires a great deal of personal efforts, students are always faced with this existential question about, is it really worth so many sacrifices? Having a clear objective in mind will help dissipating these doubts. We may also ask ourselves whether all of this is just another hype, or is the concept of program learning outcome backed up by solid research? The answer is the latter, as all of this is firmly rooted in educational research. To show the relevance of PLOs, many articles have been published in the past few decades, and only a sample is represented here. I invite you to look at recent publications which only reaffirm the findings in this field. But students are not the only group of stakeholders that need PLOs. Professors and instructors, facilitators also need to know the PLOs so that they can develop courses in line with these PLOs. There is a whole process that will take place based on the PLOs. For example, courses will have to be designed and offered in such a way that the content and assessments support the PLOs. In general, we expect that each course addresses between 3 to 6 PLOs, not all of them, using clearly defined course learning outcomes. A bit more on this process in the next slide. Next is the administrative folks who also need the PLOs to harmonize different programs, decide about creating new ones, merge existing programs, or simply put to sleep a program. Finally, other universities and employers need PLOs to have an idea of the competencies gained by graduates of a specific program. This may especially be useful when a university considers giving an equivalency of its own program to another one from another institution. In the previous slide, we said that professors also need to be fully aware of the PLOs so that they can develop courses in line and to support these PLOs. In general, we expect that each course supports between 3 to 6 PLOs. Please note that a course is not expected and in general should not cover all PLOs. So this is why we have PLO number N that in the case of this slide is supported by 6 courses. These courses will use clearly defined course learning outcomes, or CLOs, another acronym, that will follow exactly the same syntax as PLOs, but with only one difference. These CLOs, course learning outcomes, will have to be stated in a much more detailed way. You see, PLOs are more general statements that do encompass the whole program, whereas CLOs target only a course supporting a limited number of PLOs. So each PLO will drive a set of CLOs, and the process is known as PLO-CLO mapping. This can be a whole topic on its own, so let's move on to the next slide. One important point that is often misunderstood is the difference between the skill set required as a subject matter expert and as a PLO developer. There is no question that professors excel as subject matter experts in their own field. But to be honest, stating PLOs requires a different skill set. I personally discovered this fact when I myself was a professor of biomedical engineering. When I was exposed to these concepts and asked to develop PLOs for an ABET accreditation exercise, ABET stands for Accreditation Board for Engineering and Technology, I felt a mixture of confusion and some other negative feelings. So I know too well how bureaucratic this exercise may seem. As for me, after realizing the impact of this process and well-crafted PLOs on program improvement, I became a converted, and now I am promoting its use. What a twist of faith indeed. In the next section, we will look at some examples of problems that may be created by improperly expressed PLOs. So stay tuned.